Start your day right with 10 powerful morning habits for a meaningful life. A typical morning, your alarm blares to life. Without thinking, you reach for your phone, thumb scrolling through notifications before your eyes are fully open. 30 minutes pass in a digital haze. You rush to shower, gulp down breakfast if there's time, and stumble out the door, already feeling behind. The day owns you before it's even begun. Now imagine a different scene. You wake with intention, not to the glow of a screen, but to the clarity of your own thoughts. You rise not because you must, but because you've chosen to seize the day's opportunity. The morning isn't something to get through. It's a sacred space you've created to align yourself with what truly matters. This isn't fantasy. This is the Stoic morning, and it's been transforming lives for over 2,000 years. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, wrote Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher. Today, I'm going to show you how the quality of your day, and ultimately your life, depends upon the quality of your morning. I'm not offering quick fixes or life hacks. What I'm sharing are 10 morning habits rooted in Stoic wisdom that create not just productive days but a meaningful existence. These aren't trendy practices destined for abandonment. These are time-tested rituals for living with purpose and tranquility, regardless of external circumstances. The Stoics understood something many of us have forgotten. How you start determines much of what follows. They knew that true freedom comes not from controlling the outside world, but from mastering your inner domain. Your morning is where this mastery begins. So turn off your notifications, give me your full attention, and prepare to transform the first hour of your day. In doing so, you'll transform everything that follows. These 10 habits might seem simple, perhaps even obvious, but their consistent application will shift the entire foundation of your life. Remember, as Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you respond that matters. Your morning is your first and most important response to life each day. Before we dive into the specific habits, we need to understand why the morning holds such power from a Stoic perspective. The ancient Stoics recognized that the early hours contain a unique potency. This isn't about being an early riser for productivity's sake. It's about creating sacred space before the world makes its demands. Seneca, the Roman statesman and philosopher, wrote, "The day has already lodged a sufficient amount of evil in my mind. Meanwhile, I keep thinking about what has been said to me, and I rage at what I myself have said. I make my troubles heavier by being offended at them." Notice how the day's events can accumulate, burdening our minds. The morning, before this accumulation begins, offers a clean slate. This is why the Stoics placed such emphasis on morning rituals. They understood that principles without practices remain mere concepts. By engaging in deliberate morning habits, you embody philosophy rather than merely contemplating it. Think of your morning as a microcosm of your entire life. How you approach these first waking hours reveals volumes about how you approach existence itself. Are you intentional or reactive? Present or distracted? Sovereign over your attention or subject to whatever captures it? The Stoics also recognized a fundamental truth. We cannot control most of what happens during our day. Traffic jams occur, colleagues make unreasonable demands, plans fall apart. What we can control is our mental orientation toward these events. The morning is when we establish this orientation. What happens when you begin your day by immediately checking email or social media? You've surrendered your mind's first fresh moments to others' priorities. You've allowed external forces to set your mental agenda before establishing your own. From a Stoic perspective, this is a profound abdication of personal agency. Instead, the Stoic morning creates a buffer, a sacred space where you establish sovereignty over your mind before engaging with the world. This isn't selfishness, it's clarity. By first attending to your mental state, you ensure that your interactions with others come from a centered place rather than reactivity. So, as we explore these 10 habits, remember their deeper purpose. We're not just optimizing a schedule, we're creating a foundation for a life of meaning, virtue, and tranquility, regardless of external conditions. This is the promise of the Stoic morning. Our first habit might initially seem counterintuitive. Rather than beginning your day with blind positivity, we start with clear-eyed preparation for difficulty. This is the practice of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Here's how it works. Shortly after waking, take 3 to 5 minutes to consciously imagine what might go wrong in your day. Perhaps your project faces criticism. Maybe your commute encounters delays. Your child might become ill, forcing a change of plans. Consider the range of challenges, large and small, that might arise. This isn't pessimism or catastrophizing, it's pragmatic preparation. As Seneca advised, we should project our thoughts ahead of us at every turn and have in mind every possible eventuality instead of only the usual course of events. Rehearse them in your mind. Exile, torture, war, shipwreck. All the terms of our human lot should be before our eyes. Now, visualize yourself responding to these potential challenges with virtue, with patience, courage, wisdom, and justice. See yourself maintaining equanimity when your presentation is criticized. Imagine responding with patience when traffic doubles your commute time. Envision meeting the unexpected with steadiness and calm. This practice creates psychological immunization. When difficulties actually arise, you've already rehearsed your virtuous response. The challenge feels familiar rather than shocking. Your mind doesn't waste energy on thoughts like, "This shouldn't be happening." Instead, you think, "I prepared for this. I know how to respond." Make this practice concrete. Speak these potential challenges and your responses aloud, or write them briefly in a journal. Name specific situations likely to arise today. Then articulate exactly how you'll respond virtuously. Be specific. When my colleague questions my data during the presentation, I will respond with curiosity rather than defensiveness. I will thank them for their perspective and offer to review the figures together. Some fear this practice invites negativity. Quite the opposite. It dismantles anxiety. Much of our worry stems from vague apprehension about what might happen. By specifically naming potential challenges and rehearsing virtuous responses, you transform nebulous fear into concrete preparation. Remember what Epictetus taught. Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. The premeditation of potential difficulties helps you clarify what is truly in your power, your responses, and what isn't external events themselves. This clarity itself brings tranquility. Start small with this practice. Begin by identifying just one potential challenge for the day ahead. Visualize your virtuous response in detail. As the habit strengthens, expand to consider 2 or 3 likely difficulties. The goal isn't comprehensive prediction, but mental preparation. This first habit sets the tone for all that follows. By preparing for challenges, you reclaim agency in the face of uncertainty. You remind yourself that while you cannot control circumstances, you always retain control over how you respond. This realization alone transforms your relationship with the day ahead. Our second habit is gratitude journaling, but with a distinctly Stoic twist. While conventional gratitude focuses on counting blessings, Stoic gratitude adds a crucial dimension: the acknowledgement of impermanence. This creates not just appreciation, but a profound valuing of the present moment. Begin by sitting with your journal for 5 minutes. Write down 3 to 5 specific things you're grateful for today. But here's the Stoic approach. For each item, briefly reflect on its transitory nature. For example, I'm grateful for my morning coffee, knowing someday taste or health might prevent me from enjoying it. I'm grateful for my partner sleeping beside me, aware that nothing guarantees they'll be there tomorrow. I'm grateful for the functioning of my body, recognizing that age and time will inevitably alter these capacities. This practice might initially seem morbid. It's actually the opposite. It's life-affirming in the deepest sense. By acknowledging the impermanence of what we value, we're suddenly able to appreciate it with remarkable intensity. Epictetus put it plainly, "He is a man of sense who does not grieve for what he has not, but rejoices in what he has." The Stoics recognized that taking things for granted is the natural human default. We habituate to our advantages quickly, focusing instead on what's missing or imperfect. This hedonic adaptation steals our capacity for joy and satisfaction. The Stoic gratitude practice reverses this tendency. Marcus Aurelius practiced this habit faithfully, writing, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Notice he doesn't take these basic functions for granted. He recognizes them as privileges, not guarantees. Try framing your gratitude around Stoic virtue categories. I'm grateful for the clarity of mind to make thoughtful decisions. I'm grateful for opportunities to treat others fairly today. I'm grateful for challenges that allow me to exercise bravery. I'm grateful for the capacity to moderate my desires and impulses. This approach shifts gratitude from mere counting of advantages to recognition of opportunities for virtue, something the Stoics considered the only true good. Make this practice physical as well as mental. As you write each item, pause and truly feel the gratitude in your body. Notice any warmth, expansion, or relaxation. This embodies the philosophy rather than keeping it intellectual. Some find it powerful to combine this practice with the previous one. After contemplating potential difficulties, turn to what you currently possess and appreciate. This creates a balanced perspective, neither blindly optimistic nor pessimistically fixated on challenges. Remember that for Stoics, gratitude wasn't about accumulating positivity. It was about seeing reality clearly, including the precious gift of this present moment with all it offers. As Seneca wrote, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart." This morning, gratitude becomes a lens through which you view your entire day. You'll begin noticing more to appreciate even in challenging circumstances. You'll find yourself less disturbed by minor inconveniences. Most importantly, you'll experience each moment more fully, aware of its preciousness precisely because of its impermanence. Our third habit addresses the body directly, intentional physical movement. For the Stoics, the body wasn't separate from philosophical practice. It was the vessel through which virtue expressed itself. As Juvenal wrote in a sentiment the Stoics embraced, "Mens sana in corpore sano," a sound mind in a sound body. Your morning movement doesn't need to be elaborate or time-consuming. What matters is that it's intentional and mindful rather than absent or rushed. Begin with just 10 to 15 minutes of deliberate physical engagement. The form matters less than the approach. You might practice yoga, complete a brief strength circuit, take a brisk walk, or simply stretch. The key is bringing full presence to the activity rather than distracting yourself with entertainment or planning. As you move, pay attention to 3 elements the Stoics would emphasize. First, gratitude for physical capacity. Notice what your body can do rather than focusing on limitations. Feel appreciation for the complex systems functioning largely without your conscious control. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, the human body is a transient thing, its material constantly changing, and the soul, a whirl, and reputation, oblivion. Second, acceptance of the body's current state. Observe any discomfort, stiffness, or limitation without judgment. Don't strain for an ideal performance or compare today's capabilities to yesterday's. Simply meet your body where it is today. Epictetus, who lived with physical disability, often emphasized accepting bodily conditions beyond our control. Third, intentional challenge. Include at least one element that tests your limits moderately. This might be holding a plank slightly longer, adding a few more repetitions, or choosing a steeper walking route. The Stoics valued voluntary challenges as preparation for inevitable difficulties. As Seneca noted, we should strengthen the body and treat it vigorously, thus it will obey the spirit. It should eat, drink, and resist cold and heat without the special indulgence that comes from being rich. This physical practice serves as embodied philosophy. You're not just exercising for health or appearance. You're cultivating the very virtues the Stoics prized. Finding the right amount of exertion without excess, pushing beyond comfort without foolishness, discerning what your body needs today, treating your physical self with appropriate care. Make this practice consistent rather than heroic. A modest daily ritual surpasses occasional intense efforts. Begin with what's sustainable, even if that means just 5 minutes of deliberate movement. Build from there. Some find it powerful to incorporate a brief mantra or intention with their movement. With each repetition or step, silently repeat a Stoic principle you wish to embody today. I act with virtue, not for reward. I accept what I cannot change. I respond, not react. The rhythmic movement reinforces these mental patterns. Through this practice, you prepare both body and mind for the day's demands. You demonstrate to yourself that discomfort can be chosen and navigated with equanimity. You establish a physical foundation for the mental challenges ahead, and you remind yourself that while the body's condition is a preferred indifferent in Stoic terms, neither virtuous nor vicious in itself, how you relate to that condition is squarely within the realm of virtue. Our fourth habit embodies a core Stoic principle, the practice of voluntary discomfort. And one of the most accessible forms is cold exposure, typically a cold shower or splash of cold water to begin your day. This practice might seem like modern biohacking, but it has ancient roots. Seneca himself wrote about taking cold baths when the pouch of January's ice broke the banks, and I would move my old body into the frigid water. He did this not primarily for health, but to build resilience against fortune's inevitable hardships. Begin modestly. At the end of your normal shower, turn the temperature to cold for just 15 to 30 seconds. Focus on your breathing and mental response rather than the physical sensation itself. Notice any automatic thoughts like, I can't handle this, or this is terrible, and consciously replace them with, this is temporary discomfort I've chosen, or simply, I can endure this easily. As comfort grows, extend the duration gradually. Some eventually transition to beginning with cold water, while others maintain the contrast between warm and cold. The approach matters less than the intentionality behind it. The power of this practice lies not in the physical benefits, though those exist. Its true value is in the mental training it provides. Each morning, you demonstrate to yourself that discomfort can be voluntarily embraced rather than avoided, experienced without resistance, temporary rather than catastrophic, manageable through mental framing. This directly translates to daily challenges. When a difficult conversation arises, you've already practiced not fleeing discomfort. When plans collapse, you've trained your initial response. As Musonius Rufus taught, we must undergo hardship and train ourselves to face unpleasant situations. This will strengthen the soul, just as physical exercise strengthens the body. The practical application extends beyond the shower. Throughout your day, you'll encounter moments of minor discomfort: a too warm room, hunger between meals, an itch during an important meeting. Each becomes an opportunity to practice the same non-reactivity you cultivated during cold exposure. This habit also serves as a powerful reminder of perspective. If momentary cold causes such mental protest, how might we overreact to other minor inconveniences? Epictetus frequently reminded his students of this proportionality. Remember that it is not he who gives abuse or blows who affronts, but the view we take of these things as insulting. When, therefore, anyone provokes you, be assured that it is your own opinion which provokes you. For those who cannot take cold showers due to health concerns, alternatives exist that serve the same purpose. Holding a plank position slightly longer than comfortable, sitting without back support during morning meditation, or even maintaining silence during a typically chatty breakfast routine. The key is choosing temporary, safe discomfort for the purpose of mental training. Some find it helpful to explicitly connect this practice to anticipated daily challenges. Before entering the cold, briefly name a difficult situation you expect today. As you withstand the cold with equanimity, remind yourself that you can bring the same composure to that situation. Through consistent practice, what begins as a dreaded shock becomes merely an invigorating start to your day. This transformation itself demonstrates a core Stoic teaching. Our reactions to external circumstances are malleable through intentional practice. Our fifth habit addresses one of the most fundamental yet overlooked aspects of our morning: mindful consumption. This encompasses both what we put into our bodies and what we allow into our minds as we begin each day. The Stoics recognized that virtue expresses itself even in eating and drinking. These weren't trivial matters, but opportunities to practice moderation, intention, and alignment with nature. Musonius Rufus, often called the Roman Socrates, taught extensively about diet, arguing that food choices should prioritize simplicity, health, and clear thinking rather than mere pleasure. Begin with your first meal or drink. Rather than consuming on autopilot, bring full attention to the act. If you drink coffee or tea, notice the aroma before the first sip. Feel the warmth of the cup. Taste the complexity of flavors. Chew food thoroughly before swallowing. Put down utensils between bites. This isn't merely about enjoyment, it's about relationship to desire. Are you eating reactively out of habit or intentionally for nourishment? Can you appreciate without craving? Can you discern when enough is truly enough? Epictetus advised his students, in the case of particular things that delight you or benefit you or to which you have grown attached, remind yourself of what they are. Start with things of little value. If it is a ceramic cup, that it is a ceramic cup that you might lose. Apply similar discernment to your mental consumption. The average person reaches for their phone within minutes of waking, immediately filling their mind with others' urgencies, anxieties, and agendas. From a Stoic perspective, this surrenders the day's most pristine mental hours to external influences. Instead, protect the first hour from informational overconsumption. Delay checking messages, news, and social platforms until after completing your morning rituals. If you must check for urgent communications, do so briefly and with specific purpose rather than browsing. When you do consume information, do so with intention rather than habit. Ask yourself, does this contribute to my virtue? Does it help me fulfill my roles with excellence? Is it necessary or merely distracting? As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, most of what we say and do is unnecessary. Remove the superfluity, and you will have more time and less bother. This extends to conversation as well. If others share your morning space, practice mindful speech rather than habitual chatter. Consider the value of morning silence, speaking only when it serves a purpose. When you do speak, make your words measured and meaningful. These consumption practices build the vital Stoic virtue of temperance. By exercising choice over what enters your body and mind, you strengthen the discipline that will serve you throughout the day. You demonstrate that you are governing your desires rather than being governed by them. Some find it helpful to create clear protocols for morning consumption. Perhaps you'll check messages only after completing 3 key morning habits, or you'll read philosophy with breakfast rather than scrolling news. Having predetermined guidelines reduces decision fatigue and strengthens commitment. Remember that for Stoics, the goal wasn't ascetic self-denial, but appropriate relationship to externals. As Seneca wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" The point wasn't permanent deprivation, but freedom from being controlled by preference. Through mindful consumption, you reclaim sovereignty over your appetites. You demonstrate that you can appreciate life's pleasures without being enslaved by them. And perhaps most importantly, you ensure that what enters your system serves your highest aims, rather than undermining them. Our 6th habit addresses the most profound reality of human existence, one we typically avoid rather than confront: our mortality. The Stoics practiced memento mori, the contemplation of death, not as a morbid obsession, but as motivation for virtuous living. Dedicate 3 to 5 minutes each morning to this powerful reflection. Begin with a physical reminder, perhaps a symbolic object on your bedside table or a specific image. The Stoics often kept skulls or other reminders of mortality visible in their homes. Your reminder might be subtler, a special stone, an hourglass, or simply a written phrase. Sit quietly with this reminder and acknowledge 3 simple truths. First, that your death is inevitable. No matter your wealth, achievement, or social position, you will die as all humans do. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Alexander the Great and his mule driver both died, and the same thing happened to both." Second, that its timing is uncertain. This day could be your last. Not in a fearful sense, but as simple acknowledgement of reality. Seneca observed, "Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day." The one who puts the finishing touches on their life each day is never short of time. Third, that this recognition changes everything. When you truly internalize these first 2 points, priorities clarify instantly. Petty grievances dissolve, procrastination becomes absurd, courage emerges naturally. After acknowledging these truths, ask yourself, if this were my last day, would I spend it as I've planned? Would I speak to loved ones as I typically do? Would I focus on what truly matters? Let the answers inform how you approach the hours ahead. This isn't hypothetical philosophy, it's practical wisdom. Studies show that mortality salience, awareness of death, increases commitment to meaningful values and reduces concern with trivialities. What the Stoics intuited, modern psychology confirms. Some find it powerful to write a single sentence after this reflection, completing the prompt, "Knowing I will die, today I will." Your answer might address a relationship, a creative project, a contribution to others, or simply your general orientation toward the day. This practice differs fundamentally from morbid rumination or anxiety about death. It's not about fearing death, but about using its reality to fuel meaningful living. As Epictetus taught, keep death and exile before your eyes each day, along with everything that seems terrible, particularly death, and you will never have an abject thought or desire anything to excess. The memento mori practice transforms ordinary moments. A child's laughter becomes precious because it won't always sound in your ears. A sunset's beauty intensifies because you won't always have eyes to see it. Work acquires urgency because your time to contribute is finite. For those who find this practice initially uncomfortable, begin with just 1 minute of reflection. Simply acknowledge that life has an end point and let that knowledge inform one decision today. Gradually extend the practice as its benefits become apparent. Remember that the Stoic contemplation of death isn't pessimistic. It's the ultimate expression of realism and clarity. By acknowledging life's temporal boundaries, you paradoxically become freer to live fully within them. As Seneca wrote, "The one who would know the measure of life quickly learns that life is immeasurable." Our seventh habit brings the abstract principles of Stoicism into concrete daily intention. Each morning, define the specific virtues you'll embody today and the contexts in which you'll practice them. The Stoics recognized 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Rather than seeing these as lofty ideals, they viewed them as practical skills developed through daily application. Your morning is when you decide exactly how you'll strengthen these virtues today. Begin by writing down 1 to 3 virtues you'll focus on during the coming hours. Be specific about which virtue serves as primary. For example, today might emphasize courage, while tomorrow focuses on justice. This doesn't mean ignoring other virtues, but rather giving special attention to developing particular aspects of character. Next, identify concrete situations where you'll likely practice these virtues. If focusing on courage, note the difficult conversation you've been postponing. If emphasizing wisdom, recognize the complex decision that requires discernment. If justice is primary, identify interactions where fairness might be challenged. Create clear if-then implementations specifying how you'll embody these virtues when triggered situations arise. For example, if my colleague criticizes my project, then I'll practice courage by listening fully without defensiveness and responding with honest self-assessment rather than justification. This morning definition creates a framework for the entire day. Rather than reacting to circumstances as they arise, you've established in advance how your character will express itself regardless of external events. As Epictetus taught, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Some find it helpful to select virtues that counterbalance current tendencies. If you've been avoiding difficult conversations, courage becomes the focus. If you've been speaking impulsively, temperance takes priority. This creates deliberate growth rather than merely reinforcing existing strengths. Consider framing your virtue focus around specific relationships or domains. Perhaps you'll practice justice primarily in family interactions today, or wisdom specifically in professional decisions. This targeted approach builds virtue precisely where it's most needed. Remember that for Stoics, virtue wasn't about perfection, but about continual practice. Expect imperfect expression of your chosen virtues. When you fall short, use the evening to reflect on what happened and how to improve tomorrow. As Seneca advised, every night before going to sleep, we must ask ourselves, what weakness did I overcome today? What virtue did I practice? This habit transforms abstract philosophy into concrete action. Rather than merely thinking about virtue, you're actively creating opportunities to embody it. You're making character development intentional rather than incidental. Some implement this practice through a morning virtue card they carry throughout the day. Write your focus virtues and specific implementations on a small card kept in your pocket or wallet. Glance at it periodically as a reminder of your intentions. Through consistent practice, what begins as conscious effort gradually becomes character. The virtues you deliberately cultivate begin expressing themselves spontaneously. Your responses become increasingly aligned with your highest values. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Our eighth habit addresses how you'll approach your most meaningful work. The Stoics recognize that humans flourish through purpose-driven contribution. Your morning planning determines whether your day's efforts will feel scattered and reactive or focused and meaningful. Begin by identifying your deep work, the cognitively demanding, value-creating tasks that advance your most important projects. This might be writing, analysis, strategic thinking, creative problem-solving, or skilled craftsmanship. What matters is that it represents your highest contribution rather than busy work. Schedule at least one 60 to 90-minute block for this deep work. Place it during your peak cognitive hours, which for many people occur in the morning. Protect this time as sacred. As Seneca observed, people are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. Now, critically, define success for this deep work session. What specific progress will constitute meaningful achievement? Rather than vague intentions, work on the report. Establish concrete outcomes. Complete the analysis section with 3 supporting examples. This clarity prevents the session from dissolving into procrastination or tangential activities. Next, identify potential obstacles to this focused work. Will colleagues interrupt? Will digital distractions tempt you? Will energy flag? For each obstacle, create a specific implementation intention. If my colleague asks for impromptu help during my deep work time, then I'll politely explain that I'll be available at 11:30 and schedule the conversation then. The Stoics emphasize distinguishing between what we can and cannot control. In your work planning, separate your effort, fully within your control, from outcomes influenced by external factors. Commit to the quality of your attention and execution rather than specific results. As Epictetus taught, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Some find it helpful to connect their deep work explicitly to purpose. Before beginning, briefly remind yourself why this work matters, how it contributes to others, expresses your values, or develops your excellence. This creates meaning beyond mere task completion. Consider framing your work through Stoic virtues. How will you bring discernment to complex problems? How does this work serve others fairly? What difficult truths must you face in this work? How will you maintain focus without distraction? This approach transforms even routine tasks into opportunities for character development. For those with varied responsibilities, the morning planning must acknowledge reality. Perhaps deep work isn't possible today due to meetings or travel. If so, identify the depth moments, the brief periods when you can still bring full presence and excellence to smaller tasks. Quality of attention matters more than quantity of time. Remember that for Stoics, external achievement was a preferred indifferent, desirable but not essential for virtue. What matters most is how you approach your work, not its worldly outcomes. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. None of them can hurt me. No one can implicate me in ugliness, nor can I feel angry at my relative or hate him. We were born to work together. Through this strategic planning, you ensure that your day's efforts align with your deepest values, rather than merely responding to whatever demands attention loudest. You transform work from obligation to opportunity, a context for expressing virtue and purpose. Our ninth habit addresses perhaps the greatest modern obstacle to morning tranquility: digital immersion. The Stoics lived without our technological distractions, but they thoroughly understood the principle at stake: the sanctity of attention and the dangers of surrendering it carelessly. Create a morning digital protocol that explicitly delays technological engagement. This means no checking of phones, computers, or other devices for a defined period after waking, ideally 30 to 60 minutes. As Epictetus would likely advise were he alive today, these things are not for morning hours, when the mind should be tranquil and prepared for what is to come. During this digital silence, you create space for the practices we've discussed: contemplation, journaling, movement, and intention setting. You allow your mind to establish its own priorities before absorbing others. This isn't merely philosophical preference, it's neurobiological wisdom. Morning brain chemistry favors creativity and insight, advantages squandered when immediately exposed to stress-inducing information flows.